Hello and welcome to Empowerment. I'm Kelly Whetstone. Thank you for joining me today. It is 10 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday, August 12th, 2025. And I am very happy to be live with you today. Last week I did a pre-recorded show, and so it's fun to be back live. And I'm even happier that C.A. Brooks is joining me today for our August 2025 Meeting of the Minds. Excuse me, we always have a good talk, and you are invited to be a part of it. This show is playing on both 12radio.com and streaming on YouTube. And if you would like to join the chat, you can go to 12radio.com and click chat. And then you can further click the chat, the YouTube link posted under my banner, to join us in the YouTube chat room. So please join us if you can. Feel free to comment or ask questions in either chat room. We may or may not have time for readings today, but we'll see how the conversation goes. We usually start talking, and that's follow the flow of the conversation, follow our intuition. But we can answer questions in the chat room after the show. So if you would like a reading from either of us, you can find both of us on 12listen.com. I'm available every day, usually mid to later morning Pacific into the evening. If you stop by, you don't see me, just schedule a call, put in a callback request. I'm notified immediately and we'll get back to you as soon as I can. Today is our big day on 12listen. It is 12 Day. We celebrate the 12th of every month on 12listen.com with random reduced rates on calls and chats that change throughout the day, and with special pricing on time-based sessions and other services. It's a really fun day. It's an exciting day. It's got a lot of its own kind of buzzy energy, which is really fun. I'll be online after the show and a little bit of lunch, and I'll be on into the evening. And I also have a 12 Day replenish time-based session at a very special price for the day. And you can find that at 12listen.com. If you would like to be notified of our specials, we usually have special pricing a few days a week. Just go to 12listen.com and sign up for 12 promotions. And right now, I always speed talk through this first part of the show because I want to get to the place where CA and I are talking to each other. But I do want to thank you again for being here, and thank you for listening, however and whenever you do. There is programming 24/7 on 12radio.com, and you can find archives of all the shows from all of the hosts in the on-demand section at 12radio.com. 12 Radio is a great way for us to support you, and it is a great source of information and inspiration. So I invite you to take advantage. And I want to say thanks to Serena for producing the show today. And as you know, I am always glad to have CA on with me. Our Meeting of the Minds, the show that we do typically on the second Tuesday of the month, is just something that I really do look forward to because it's a fun show, but it's also a cool breakup, kind of a little shakeup in the energy of my show, which is just me teaching the rest of the time. So as I said, I always look forward to this, and it ends up being a good discussion every single time, I think. So if you're unfamiliar with CA, she's a 12listen advisor, clairvoyant astrologer, animal communicator. She's an avid student of A Course in Miracles, tarot, feng shui, many, many things. She writes the week ahead section of the Power Peak, Mark Husson's weekly newsletter. She hosts Everyday Astrology here on 12 Radio, which immediately precedes Empowerment, live every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And she also has podcasts of her Course in Miracles show available in the on-demand section at 12radio.com. So our Meeting of the Minds, and we've been doing these since, I think it was 2011 when we started doing them. So a long, long time. But our Meeting of the Minds is where we can bring everything and anything to the table. My gig is spirituality. That's just it. Spirituality and mysticism, that's what lights me up. But here, everything includes spirituality, but it's not limited to that. It includes astrology, tarot, feng shui, stories about our dogs, and anything else is welcome. So we could talk for days. So this is always, as I said, just a fun show and an enjoyable time and a great share of energy between CA and I and you. Everyone who's listening, whether they're listening now to this show live or they listen at any other time, is part of the energy of empowerment for the next 50 minutes or so. So I'll have CA join me in just a couple of minutes, and because I want to start with a story as per usual, and just share some really happy examples of being provided for, by spirit, by source, also known as supply. And what supply is spiritual, but what we see outside of us, what meets our needs, which is whatever we need when we need it, is the demonstration of that spiritual supply. And supply is source. It's all one thing. But when I say whatever we need when we need it, I mean that. A lot of times people think supply is money. Money is a demonstration of supply, but so is motivation. When you need motivation, a good idea, um, an opportunity to go out and have some fun, which is what I'm going to talk about right now in this story. So I've pretty much run out of projects, to do around the house. I've been working on projects now for quite a while, for a couple years now, or a year and a half at least. Um, and I'm really ready to have more of a social life. And actually, let me rephrase that. I'm really ready to have a social life. I'm self-employed. I work every day. I work from home. So that really limits my sphere of fun. Um, and when I was in the mortgage business, I worked for a small company and we were all just good friends. It was kind of like family. We had our own little group consciousness, and included in that group consciousness was a lot of fun. We did a lot of stuff together, and there was always something going on. And my house was pretty much always the meeting place, the party place, the place to hang out, and it just was how life was at that time. Later, after I met Shannon, just a couple years after my mortgage career, after I ended my mortgage career, because I love the people I worked for, I love the company, I love my clients. Never loved the mortgage business. So after a couple years later, I met Shannon, and we got married, and we hosted huge Passover and Christmas dinners, sometimes for 12 or more people. And it was that, so it retained kind of that atmosphere, being that and entertaining. And Shannon was the cook, and I've always been the stager and the cleaner, and that's my setting an ambiance and making the place just right has always been my forte. So in feng shui, my house is a number 2, which is relationship. So having people over was normal and enjoyable, and I miss that now. So about a month ago or so, I was talking to my acupuncturist, who's a dear friend of mine, has been for a long, long time, about that. And she said she thought that another patient of hers and I should be friends. And I'd met him before, and he's a super nice guy who also works all the time and was also missing the social element. So, long story short, we met for lunch a couple times and had a nice time talking, and music is a common interest. And we ended up going to the ZZ Top concert at Red Rocks last Monday night and had an absolute blast. So, here out of the blue comes a new friend, right? Well, around the same time, I was watering my lawn and looking at my lovely patio that is right outside my office door, that I look at all the time. That makes me very, very happy. And I was looking at the new patio set that I bought in spring and that no one has sat on at all. I mean, Jared, my grandchildren, Kristen, they were here for 10 days. We never came back here and sat on this patio. There's another small patio outside my living room, which is more conducive to just, walking outside and eating. It just is. Um, but no one has sat on that patio. And I remember thinking, to myself, I hope someone comes over to sit out here before the end of summer. Well, right around that time, I had texted Scott, my nephew-in-law, and asked him if he might have a couple minutes to swing by and change my refrigerator water filter. Now, changing a water filter is not rocket science, and I've done it before, but it's really difficult. It's in an odd place and it takes some muscle. So Jared had a hard time getting it out, and Scott's fought with it before. So I thought, I'm just path of least resistance. I'm going to ask him if he can come do that. And he texted back and he said, sure. And then he asked me what I was doing last Saturday. And I said I was working, but I was flexible, thinking that's when he was going to come over to change the filter. Well, it just so happened that when I texted him, it just so happened. Remember, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Um, it just so happened that when I texted him, he was sitting with our friend Jane, talking about how we should all go out to listen to music. And she said, we agreed at the beginning of summer that we would go have cocktails on the patio at Kelly's house. But she also wanted a grill. So we set it up for last Saturday. Scott came over Thursday to change the filter and to look at the grill. Now, I have a grill that has not been used in probably more than 3 years. I don't I don't grill. I've never grilled. The grill was Shannon's domain, and he was really good at it. So honestly, I wasn't even sure it worked. But the propane tank still had propane in it. Scott got it to light. He went out and bought all new grates to cook on because the other ones were just a mess. And he put those in on Saturday. And then Jane brought meat. And I mean, she brought a rack of ribs. She brought brats, chicken breasts, and these skewers that were chicken wrapped in bacon. I mean, it was a ton of meat. And she is a grill master, and she'll tell you that. And I love her. She is just one of the most dynamic people I've ever met. And I just love her. She's a powerhouse. But she lives in an apartment, and so does Scott. And I think Scott has a little grill, or there's an electric grill at his apartment too. And that's her deal. She goes, "It only has an electric grill and I don't use it. It's not like grilling." So she was in heaven. And this was like this big, not only was this a delight for me to have people over and go sit out on the new comfortable, cute little patio furniture and have a cocktail and appetizers, but she was having a blast prepping this meat and grilling all this meat. And while it was cooking, we sat there and talked and we ate inside, and then after dinner, we sat on the other patio and made a commitment to go out to listen to music real soon, and I know we will. But it was really cool, but because of all that meat, certainly that was more than 3 people could have consumed, and so they took the leftovers home, which was great. She left me with one of the chicken breasts, which I had on a salad, but it was just a lovely, fun night. So that's my second example. Out of the blue, here we go. An answer, just love from God. Love from God. Here's some friends. Have some fun on your patio. You know? So then yesterday, I was talking to Jared, my son, to find out when they're coming for Thanksgiving this year. They didn't last year. So they're coming for Thanksgiving, and we've, prior to last year, had a tradition, a new tradition since my grandchildren have been around. So for the past 8 years, called the Cousins Christmas, because my nephew now has 2 little kids, and I have 3 grandchildren. And his wife, they go to her family in Indiana for Christmas, and Jared and Kristen always spend Christmas at their house in Illinois. So, in order for all of us to get to see the kids open their presents, I started having a cousin's Christmas every at Thanksgiving time. So we have dinner, and the little kids get to open their presents, and I find a Christmas cocktail, and it's just a really fun time. So I was talking to Jared yesterday, and he and I settled on November 23rd before Thanksgiving because they're going to leave the weekend after. So that didn't make sense to do this and have them leaving the next day. It would have taken the fun out of it. But, and he and I said, let's do that Sunday the 23rd Sunday before Thanksgiving. I send a text out to everyone here, my niece and her husband, my nephew and his wife, and my sister-in-law and my brother, and everyone can come. That's like the perfect day. It's a bye week for the Broncos, so there's no football game that everybody has to finish before they can come over. You know, it's just, I mean, that in and of itself was kind of like a minor miracle. But in the course of the text exchange, my brother asked if I wanted to go to the Rockies game on Sunday. I love the Rockies. I don't care how bad they are. I've always loved the Rockies, and I love Coors Field. And I have not been to a game since I think 2019, before Shannon got sick. So here's another opportunity to just go and have fun with my brother, who is one of my most favorite people to have fun with. So, you know, it's just incredible. And the thing about it is, another really lovely thing is that, I may be off my regular work schedule. I still work every day, but even varying that hasn't hurt at all. And in fact, I think having some fun and being expanded in that way personally makes it even better. It just adds to it. And I can't exactly explain that, but it does. Take my word, for me anyway. And it just came into my consciousness. It comes down to one of my favorite Florence Scovel Shinn phrases: divine ideas never conflict. And they don't. And to be online, to be working with my clients is a divine idea, but so is going out and being in life. That too is a divine idea. So, I really do believe that every good desire is given us, the desire to do more, be more, have more is inspired by the infinite self, because that's what it's doing in, through, and as us. So anyway, I just wanted to share those just really delightful, fun examples of supply. And now, CA, how are you? I'm so glad you're with me today.
I am good, but I want you to repeat. When are you going to the Rockies game?
Sunday.
Sunday. Okay. The reason I ask is because this is funny. I spend a lot of time, or at least, usually touching base with my parents in the evenings. And so
Mhm.
sometimes it's earlier evening or whatever. But anyway, my dad watches every one of those Rockies if it's
Does he?
televised. I know. And it's kind of funny because it's kind of a joke, between my brother and I. Like, he'll go, I just can't sit there. It's like watching paint dry, when, watching it on TV, a Rockies game. But I'm going, yep. But the point is, I spend time with dad. But it's so funny because dad watches, like, and I don't know, this is an exaggeration. I feel like they play more than 200 games a year. They
They
don't,
play
but
a
it's a
lot of games.
lot. They play
They
a
play a lot.
lot of games. I think it's
Thank
over
you.
100. And, he's got the baseball package and the NFL package, etc. So when the
Mhm.
Rockies are playing in the summer, I almost always see at least part of the game. But dad is so funny because he watches so many of them that a lot of the season ticket holders, if they're anywhere near the batter, my dad
Mhm.
identifies the people. He goes, hey, there's Whitey, and oh, and there's his girlfriend with the red hair. And oh, I wonder, he knows these
That's
people. I mean,
hilarious.
and in fact, one of my nieces said, I'm going to go to a Rockies game and I'm going to walk up to that guy and say, hey, my grandpa always says hello to you, you know. But anyway, so I thought, okay, I will watch for you,
Oh,
Kelly.
that's funny.
If,
Well, I'm
yeah,
sure.
or at least know that you're there, and who knows, maybe I will see you on a camera.
Yeah. Well, I know my brother has season tickets, and and so this is really fun. And I know they're good seats. I mean,
Mhm.
because because yes, season tickets. But I love Coors Field. Now, to sit and watch a game on TV, no. No, but to be in the mix, to
Yes,
be in
it's
that
fun.
energy,
Yes.
and Coors Field is the most gorgeous stadium. I mean, I
It
just think
is,
it's
it's
a
beautiful.
beautiful ball field. So,
Mhm.
what is there to complain about? Nothing.
Well, that's right. Unless it's way, way too hot. I've been at a few afternoon games when it's like, okay, I'm gonna die here sitting out in the sun. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun. It's a fun thing. And I think because we're from Denver, it just feels really good to be sitting there and watching and they get rained out sometimes or we're waiting for the rain to stop. And that's nice too, because it almost never rains here. So we get
Mhm.
to experience a little bit of Denver. But in any case, I think that's funny because, like I said, my dad literally has names for all these people he sees, behind the batter.
That's really cute. That is really
Yeah.
cute.
And the fact that he keeps track of them. Like he goes, I think Whitey's been sick. He's not looking so good. Like,
Oh,
oh
how
my
funny.
God. He really pays attention to him. But that's it. Baseball. You know what baseball's like. So in any case,
Mhm.
that was funny. But the other idea I have for you as you were talking is I thought cousins camp in the
Mhm.
summertime or in the springtime. One of my sisters, I don't know if I ever told you this, she used to do cousins camp every year. Now she was fortunate because she had 54 acres in Westcliff, Colorado. She
Oh,
had
right.
horses, and the kids could hike and get in the hot tub, and there were just so many activities for them to do. But she pulled the kids that were all within about, I'd say 2 to 3, maybe 4 years of each other, and
Mhm.
they were all cousins. And so it ranged from about 4 to 6 kids. But she did it every summer. And
Wow.
they would all come out for 2 weeks. And she would have all these activities. She often got t-shirts for them, that would be whatever the theme of Cousins Camp was that summer. And they just all had such a good time. And as your grandkids get a little bit older, maybe you'll need to do cousins camp. But if I were you, I would certainly elicit the help of your brother or other people because, you know,
Right.
it's a
Right.
lot of work. But you know what I was also thinking, as you had been talking earlier in the year about all the gardening and stuff. See, you call it cousins camp and you have them come out and help you with the garden.
Oh, right.
You teach them horticulture and then, and you take them to some museums and, maybe down to the Y to go swimming or something. But I'll bet you they'd love it as they get a little older.
Eh, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe you're going, yeah, sure, CA. Okay. Well, like I said, you talk your brother and his wife into sharing it with you.
Well,
And and maybe Jared even comes out and he takes a few days or something. Takes the kids into the mountains or something.
when they were here at, excuse me, they were here at the end of June, and we did go up to Buena Vista for our family reunion.
Uh-huh.
And they stayed at the cabin up there. Sorry, my voice, weird. Um, and then my brother and sister-in-law have a pool.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh,
they
that's right.
spent
They do. Yeah.
yeah, they spent like they spent at least 5 evenings in that pool.
Okay,
So
so see, their house is
they could
headquarters
just have pool
for
camp.
cousins camp. Yeah. They come over and learn some gardening at your house, but they stay at your brother's house.
Yeah, or stay here and we transmit,
Yes,
transport.
yes. Oh my gosh, so
I'm
much fun.
It is
Really.
fun. But, when you were talking, I was listening to your show with Mo, and you were talking about the Leo, the
Mhm.
retrograde and Leo, and just things I can't repeat exactly what you said, but personal things coming up over that period. I'm
Mhm.
thinking, "Wow, I think that's exactly what that what my story was about."
Well, you know what? I do too, because, and by the way, for people who may not have heard that, I was talking about Mercury being retrograde, but this recent retrograde, which has now ended, um, that started July 17th and ended yesterday. When we have a retrograde with Mercury, then we're looking at things from a different perspective. But this one was in Leo. And I think for a lot of people, this is going to be more memorable because Leo has to do with our self confidence. It's personal to us. It's like how I'm being seen. Am I getting what I want? And by the way, Kelly, it's very much about having fun.
Mm,
Leo is youthful, it's joyful, it's the little
mhm.
kid who says, I want to be playing out in the sunshine. how do I get into the fun in my life? And a lot of it, see, so some of those issues about self-confidence and self-determination and being able to be authentic and self-expressive, see, that's what I
Mhm,
mean. Think about every little kid.
mhm,
They want to talk, or they want to share, or they want to, they want to relate to all these people, but they want to do it in an authentic way. And when you think about it, probably a little unfortunately, part of our whole growing up process is to kind of curtail that and dial
mm,
it back so that we'll be acceptable to other people, will be
mhm,
acceptable
mhm,
in certain social situations. But Leo itself is that just unbridled, here I am, I'm just kicking up, just kicking up my heels and enjoying myself and totally loving who I am and being myself. So I think this particular Mercury retrograde brought up a lot of that. And for you, I would say absolutely. It said,
yeah,
where's the fun? Where is the self-expression? Where's the fun in your life? Where's that Leo? I just want to be joyful. I just want to go out and have the best time. And so every single thing you did, I'm not going to say Mercury retrograde made it happen, but it was definitely, not coincidental that that would happen on a Mercury retrograde in Leo.
yeah.
Absolutely. And
I
then
thought that
not
was
losing.
fascinating. Mhm,
Yeah. And then as
mhm,
we go through this next period of time, which I consider, it's the shadow, but it's assimilation, is how do you want to hold on to that? How do you want to keep that? How do you want to not lose that aspect of yourself or use it to be more authentic in your life? Because, like I said, we
mhm.
do. We play all the roles. And, we
Yep,
need that reminder from time to time about what it's like to be self expressive, kind of with no holds barred, you know?
yeah,
So,
yes,
yeah. And I love that because there again, too, sometimes I think about the little joys in life that somehow just get lost along the way. And yet they don't need to because they're so small. They're just like, how can you not just do that? Like for me, one of the things I love is to just, and I'm not going to say absolutely first thing, but pretty close to first thing, is just enjoy a cup of coffee. And it can just be
mhm,
espresso or whatever it is. And I sit in the yard, you know, all every day of the year with
mhm,
my dog who loves to eat because he wants to be out there exploring first thing in the morning.
mhm,
And and that's it, just have a quiet moment with a cup of coffee. And even if it's just 5 or 6 minutes, I'd like it to be 30, but even if it's just 5 or 6 minutes, it's like, don't let that go. That
right,
that is just something I love. Just pay attention. How does the coffee taste? How does it feel? And I'm almost always listening to a podcast on A Course in Miracles. And
mhm,
it just sets the tone for my day. And yet I think how often I just want to rush, rush, rush. And, oh, I've got this going on and that going on. And, but it's like, no, do not skip. Do not skip unless it's absolutely necessary. That 5 or 6 or 30 minutes sitting
yeah,
there with a cup of coffee and letting Tucker explore the yard. You
yeah.
know,
Well,
it's
that's
just,
grounding. Yeah,
yeah, and it's relaxing because, that's the other thing I've been thinking a lot about recently. And it's not a new concept, but how you stay totally centered and relaxed and calm, even in a hurricane, even in the middle of the eye of the storm. I don't think we're ever going to see life all of a sudden calm down.
no,
That's what we think.
life's
Somehow,
just life.
oh yeah, life is life. All these pieces are somehow going to come back together, or when people talk about it getting back to normal, or that somehow things are going to slow down, they're just going to feel different again. No, they're not. And by the way, they never have.
Mhm,
That I
right,
think that is such an illusion that you ever thought life was not complicated or chaotic. It's a
right.
matter of how we experience it and just really how do we remember to find that spot, that personal spot for ourselves of what it feels like to just be in the center and not be totally disrupted by all those things that are going to continue to go on. And I'm not even saying they're negative. They're just
Mhm.
It's life. You take a
Yeah.
shower every day, or you wash your hair, you wash your clothes, you get dressed. I mean, sometimes, just this repetitive, got to do it all over again, you know?
Mhm. Mhm.
But that's it. That's life. That's just
Yeah.
life. But being able to find that just very calm place,
Mhm.
and it can be very, very difficult, you know?
And we have to do it because it's
Yes.
not gonna show up for us because
No.
life is life.
Yeah.
So, it's a purposeful thing, and it is also a gift to
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's hard to do that, to give
Mm-hmm.
yourself a gift, for various reasons. It could be a multitude of reasons why people have a difficult time kind of receiving, um, but it's not it's not a waste of time at all.
No.
It's a
No.
very productive use of time.
Well, and or just to understand what feeds you. I think,
Yeah.
also, like for instance, somebody I've been talking to recently is really into learning all different kinds of meditation and this self-help and this self-help. And it's all entertaining and it's wonderful. But there's a part of me that goes, yeah, been there, done that, and I don't say that because
Mhm.
I recognize that's part of the process. But
It
it's
is.
not about finding the next best self-help book or the next best way to meditate. And yet, on the other hand, if you try out a number of things and you go, this is what I got from this is what I got from this, and this is what I got from that. But recognizing that even that can just be this frantic running from thing to thing to thing to
Right.
be able to do it right, even calming yourself down like meditation and analyzing it. But I also recognize sometimes that's what we need. We think we need to understand it,
Mhm.
and we don't. I think sometimes we just don't
There's
need
nothing
to
to
understand.
understand.
There's nothing to understand. In fact, I'm
Not
not
with
going to quote
meditating.
I'm not going to quote this correctly, but in A Course in Miracles, there's a line about you still think that your understanding is an important contribution to the truth. And
Oh.
yeah, and
Oh, I like that.
like I said, I may not have said it right, but that's it. That if I don't understand it, that it's not truth, or that I have to understand how all the pieces flow. And when we're dealing with spiritual ideas and metaphysical ideas, we can't apply the rules of the material universe because
No,
it's not going to work. Just
no.
like you can't apply the rules of gravity to maybe some other astrophysics thing. I mean, maybe, but you get my
Mhm.
point.
I
That
do.
we use the rules that we have
Mm.
and we try to apply them to everything. And sometimes, and
Our filters.
I mean, trust me, I'm a very analytical person. I want to know how it works. I want to know how these dots all connect. But one thing I am learning in my life right now, or that really is coming to me, is you know what? You may never know. You're not going to know how this works. You're not
Mm,
going to know exactly how those dots all connect because you're trying to use the rules of analysis, the rules or the principles of the material universe, and you're trying to apply them to something that isn't concrete and physical universe.
mhm.
And can you just live with that? Now, years ago, I would not have been able to. I mean, I would have just said, no, I need to understand it. I need you to explain it to me, and I need to understand it. I need to connect the dots. And now I literally am just getting more at peace and accepting, you know what? I'm not going to understand it because I don't have the tools. I mean, you're living in a physical body. You can't understand what it really means to walk through walls or to transport. I mean, a lot of those things you're never going to be able to come up with the physics to be able to explain that or understand it because you know what? It defies it. You
Right,
know, we're
right.
spiritual beings, and that spiritual part of ourselves, it operates by a different set of rules.
Mhm.
So
Actually, none.
yeah, yeah. So in any case, it's entertaining and I love watching. And like I said, I would never deny somebody the experience of going through that because I don't know how, without testing out all those theories and going through all that stuff, that's part of your whole process. And you
It
don't
is.
jump from A to Z. And I'm not saying I'm at Z, by the way, please, please. I
No,
am
no, no.
not saying that.
And
But I'm
no.
just saying you can't skip over the steps. So whatever's in front of your face, whatever intrigues you, whatever the curiosity is, go check it out. Go check
Yeah.
it out. It holds something for you that then
But
you can incorporate into your life experiences.
yeah, but I would, adding to that, there's how can I say this? It's hard to put into words.
Mhm.
Um, it's not just learning something new, learning something new, learning something new, trying to find the truth, trying to find the magic potion, the
Right, the
magic
magic, yes, yes.
the magic key. It's that searching thing, and that's all head. That's all mind
Right, right.
doing that. But
Mhm,
when you try things or experiment or meditate or whatever it is, it's got to settle within you. You've
mhm,
got to you got to feel it, or else you're still in your head and you're just going to keep searching. And that's the only way to do it. You try it and you find a teacher that just resonates and you feel that
mhm,
resonance in your body when you hear them or when you read it. It's like, oh, give me more, give me more. I want to know more. I want to experience more. But that's the pot of gold, is when you really feel it and then you start using it. And then there are times when, here comes someone else and you start listening to that. But I think you get to a place, and again, speaking from personal experience, where you find someone that resonates and then you take that, you use that, you learn, you expand, and then you're in a place where something else comes in and you go, well, I wonder what that's about. So it's not the
mhm,
searching and grabbing for something, it's being a receptive center for
mhm,
for your good to show up, for your next step, your next teacher, the next voice that's going to resonate with you. And that doesn't mean you throw out the previous one.
mhm,
You just,
right.
because I go back and it's like, wow, I haven't listened to Joel in a while, or I haven't listened to Ram Dass in a while, or whatever it is. And and it's just that's like the sweet spot, where you're comfortable, you're learning, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, here's this. And then you go on an expansive period again, like a growth period, so to speak. But yeah, and I think my feeling is, and maybe it's just because this is how I operate, you can have a whole bunch, but I have to narrow it down to one at a time. You know what I mean? I
Mhm,
have to
mhm,
find the one that resonates, truly resonates in my being, that I can really grow with and learn from. And and that's okay. You don't have to be a master of everything or try to be a master of everything. Whether it's like for me, it's meditation and spirituality, but to learn tarot, to learn um, astrology, to learn all those things, to try and do that at one time is, you know, jack of all trades, master of none, right?
mhm.
So finding the thing that really grabs you and you
Yes.
feel it is what that was a long-winded way of saying that.
Yes, and, as I've taught a lot of astrology classes,
Uh-huh.
and the one thing that has really come to me, I mean, a long time ago, but it finally came to me, is that it's that curiosity, it's that desire.
Uh-huh.
And for instance, if I hear somebody say something about, oh, I just don't want to look at these charts, or I don't want to have to do this homework or whatever, I'm not saying they'll never get it, but I compare that to myself, where, and this is what I say: if I hear something interesting on the news or an interesting person, I immediately go run and see if I can do their chart.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
that's exactly
Really?
what oh yeah. And
Wow.
so over the years I've built up an incredible database, because it's like, oh, this is the day
I
so and so
bet.
made that announcement, or this is the day, and that's what it says, so and so announced blah blah blah, or so and so, this is their chart. And the point is this: I can hardly wait to see their chart. Nobody is saying, okay, you better go in there and look at some charts. It's more like, I can
What's your
hardly wait.
option?
I mean, I can't tell you how many times in a day I go running to my computer because I go, oh, I want to see that person's chart. I want to see what's going on for them today. Or something happens and I want to go calculate a chart for it. And so what that tells me is, you can't hold me back. from running
No,
those charts and doing that
it's
because
your
I
passion.
love it. And
Yeah.
so you go for things that grab your, I mean, there are some things in life that you're going to learn because you're thinking it's helpful. But if something doesn't just really grab you and you just really love it, then it's always going to, in a sense, be a struggle.
Mhm.
It's not going to be something that you're going to go, okay, that was really helpful. Now, but like I said, I recognize certain things in life we're just going to we have to learn them. And maybe
Right.
we'll figure out how they're useful and maybe we won't. But other things, especially in the metaphysical and the spiritual realm, it's like go for what your passion is. I don't care what it is. Just like if that's what
Absolutely.
you go running to find, oh, I got to know more about this, or I want to go to this, singing bowl demonstration, or I want to understand how this works, then go for it. Don't choose something and say, oh, well, this is what all the cool kids are doing, or this is what everybody's talking about. If you can't develop if it just doesn't resonate with you, then let it go
Right.
you know?
Right.
But I also have an aside. Did you want to say something and then I have an aside?
Okay, yeah, I just want to say something really quickly because this is perfect for what we're just talking about. Um, one of the teachers that came back around for me recently was Joseph Campbell. And I started listening to just shorts on YouTube and I mean they brought me to tears. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I watched him and Bill Moyers in the 80s, that series.
Uh-huh.
I watched that every Sunday, and loved it, but hearing him now from where I am and what I've been learning, especially from Alan Watson over the past few years, it was stunning. I mean, it was just so wonderful. But he's the one that coined the phrase "follow your bliss."
Oh.
And he explained, what he meant by that is he said, "Your bliss is the message of God to yourself. It's your passion. It's the thing that brings you joy.
Mm-hmm.
And that, when you know what that is, follow it. Because no matter what happens, you're in that place." And, he said that the word enthusiasm means filled with God. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're enthusiastic about, it's like it creates that circle, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just God becoming more God through you, as you. When you follow that and you're just in love and just totally involved in what you're doing or listening to or reading like you and your charts. I mean, it really is a passion and we are fed by that. Beyond words,
Mm-hmm.
we're fed by that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was just really it was really neat to listen to him again and just a fascinating vet. And he is truly a man who loves what he does and what he talks about. I mean, he just lights up, and that in and of itself is a treat.
It is.
Yeah. So what's your
All
aside?
right. Oh, well, here's my
Oh,
aside. Did you ever watch the series Bones?
I tried.
Yeah,
Really,
it
I tried. I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't like her character.
oh, and you know what? I love her character.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. No, it just
and the
didn't
truth
hit me
is
right.
they never say that she's autistic,
I was gonna
but
say. Mhm.
they never say that, but it's definitely that's what they're writing. They're
Mhm.
writing a character who is, trying to be mainstream, but just doesn't, that thinks differently
Doesn't
than
fit.
other people. But that's funny because see, I think that's why I like it. I love her character. And I think whoever wrote that, it was pretty incredible in capturing a person who somehow, isn't like on the same page as everybody else. But here's the point. I never watched it when it was live because, quite honestly, I thought, oh, it's just too gross. But, years later, I kind of binged it, a few years ago and
Mhm.
watched all the seasons. Every day I'd watch one or two of those shows until I finished it. But now it runs it's one of those shows that's constantly in reruns, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes if I'm, like for lunch, I just want to put on something and I don't want to pay a whole lot of attention. So I'm not watching something new, but I go, oh, there's a Bones rerun, right?
Mhm.
Well, interestingly enough, one of the characters' fathers is played by a guitarist in ZZ Top, which is
Really?
so weird. I mean, and I remember the first time, I mean, he's only like, he might only have like a total of 4 or 5, guest shots in 12 years of episodes, right?
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
remember the first time I saw him, I'm like, okay, what is this about? I mean, why is that guy in there? And I even looked him up. Is he supposed to just look like him or is it really him? And it really is him.
Is
I
it
mean,
Billy
and
Gibbons?
I don't remember. It's a guy that wears a little hat.
That's Billy Gibbons. That's the
Okay,
singer.
okay, that's who
Yeah,
he is. Okay.
yeah,
So, we'll see, and I don't know ZZ Top.
yeah.
But I mean, I certainly recognized this guy when I saw him on the
Oh, that's
screen. I'm just like,
crazy.
oh my God, what, how does that have anything to do with this show? That one of the, people working in the lab, that's her father. But anyway, what's funny that you would mention that, like right before we went on the air today, that you went to see ZZ Top, is
Uh-huh.
because yesterday I'm making my lunch and I think, oh, there's a Bones episode on. I think I'll just, watch that. Well, he's in it. He's in it. And so once again, I'm just thinking, this is so funny that this guy is in this,
That is
in this
just
show.
crazy.
It was. And he actually had a
Funny.
few more scenes than I'd say he usually did.
Mhm.
He was kind of integral to whatever the plot was. And I just thought, I want to understand, and I never will, but how did they make that connection? Did somebody know them? Did somebody like love ZZ Top, or what was the situation where they pull him in as being a guest star? But anyway, he was in
Wow.
yesterday's show. So once again, I was going through this whole thing, this meandering. How did he get in that show? And then all of a sudden, you're talking about ZZ Top. So it's like life is so synchronistic.
It is. Oh my gosh, that is hilarious, CA. That
Well,
is
it is
really
because
funny. I'm
because
gonna
of all the
Google it.
shows, yeah, of all the shows, he's like I said, he's not in many of them.
No, and the thing is that I mean, I love ZZ Top, but they're not like I wouldn't go my friend picked said, "Hey, they're there. If I can get tickets, do you wanna go?" And it's
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
wouldn't miss it, and it was great. I mean, it was really,
yes.
really great, but, that is just a scream. That is
It
really
is.
fun.
It is. And, that's one of those things anyway. It would probably be really fascinating to understand why characters get cast in shows, but
Mhm.
especially when there's an outlier like that, you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
Just all of a sudden, hey, let's have him play the father. Oh my God.
Who's the most unlikely person we can think of? Oh.
Right. Right. And now all of a sudden Kelly's talking about ZZ Top. I go, okay, I love synchronicity. It's just so much fun. And there again, it's entertaining. It's fun.
It
So
is,
thank
it
you for
is.
mentioning that.
Absolutely. Well, this has been fun. So, today's 1-2 day, you can be online?
Yes, I am. I'm gonna grab some lunch. We'll
Me
see,
too.
watch an episode of something, and then I'll be online this afternoon.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do too. And what else do you have going on, CA?
Well, mostly, being on One to Listen, and I'm always, well, I shouldn't say always. I'm available by scheduled call lots of times. So if you don't see me on, I know my schedule can be somewhat erratic, but if you don't see me as available, just request a special call at a time that's good for you, on a day that's good for you, and I will be there. But I mean, I try to be on in the afternoons on One to Listen. So, and I am in Pacific time. So I know that there can be a time difference for those people who are overseas or they are, on the East Coast. But I try to be on One to Listen in the afternoon. So just, hopefully I'll meet you there. And I'm always, on my radio show at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesdays, and glad to be here with you today, Kelly. Very much so.
Oh, me too. I always love our show and also the Power Peak. You write the week ahead section
Yes.
and
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's a
listen to
big part.
Power
That's
Peak.
a big part of what I'm doing. I write that week ahead section, which of course I just love. Just love, love, love. That is like one of the really fun parts of my week is to just sit down and do a spread of cards and look at the astrology and just to me, it's a magical happening all coming together.
Yep. And I enjoy writing my article for it too.
Yep.
It's just different. It's just fun to put that out there, some
Mm-hmm.
little something, whatever you're thinking about, whatever's up,
Yep.
my experience.
Yep.
But everyone, I will be on on 1-2 list. I was just looking at the clock. Sorry, I got distracted.
Yep.
I will be online this afternoon after I have some lunch too into the evening, and I would love to talk to you. You've been listening to Empowerment. My name is Kelly Whetstone. My special guest today was C.A. Brooks, and I thank you for being here. Please stay tuned for Katie Weaver, and have a very, very blessed week. Bye, everyone. Thanks. We're here on 1-2 Radio, where we're changing the way you listen to the world.